That is so bad, and that is so cheesy. It's got to be real.
Welcome to Experience Points, presented by our friends at Avtex, who transform customer experience through CX design and orchestration. On Experience Points, contestants earn points by answering customer experience questions and share their insight on how to make your interactions remarkable. Those points turn into dollars for the charity of their choosing. I'm Dan Gingiss.
And I'm Joey Coleman, and we'd love to introduce you to today's contestant. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott McCain is the master of the ultimate customer experience. He's an internationally acclaimed speaker and the author of not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but 7 fantastic books on customer experience, the most recent of which is Iconic: How Organizations and Leaders Attain, Sustain, and Regain the Ultimate Level of Distinction. Scott, welcome to Experience Points.
Joey, guys, an introduction like that, I can hardly wait to hear what I have to say. That was really great.
Well, you're an amazing guy, Scott. We're thrilled to have you on the show.
I'm blown away by being with you guys. This is fantastic, and I've really been looking forward to this. Thank you for having me today.
Well, we are thrilled to have you, Scott, and we do everything big here on Experience Points, so we're going to have a ton of fun. So before we start the game, we know that you're going to be playing for a very special charity today. Will you tell us who you've decided to play for and what do they mean to you?
Well, I got my start through a student organization named FFA. Now, back when I was in it, it was called the Future Farmers of America. Now, because the vast majority of the over 700,000 members are involved in agribusiness or small animal care at a veterinarian or turf management, like at a golf course, anything that grows is covered by that. So students throughout the nation in urban and rural areas are learning about leadership skills and communication skills through this incredible organization. So it's my privilege to play for and hopefully pay some forward to the National FFA Foundation.
Well, Scott, that's fantastic. And as a kid who grew up in rural Iowa, I'm super excited to have you playing for FFA. I know you and I both share some rural roots. And even though Dan's in the big city of Chicago, he's a Midwesterner as well. So super excited to have you playing for FFA.
And I do like corn, so that's something. All right,
as we know from your humor, Dan,
Scott, today we are going to be playing Fake or Fact.
In Fake or Fact, examine 3 similar experiences. Some are real, some are not. Your task is to determine the fake from the fact. Each experience correctly detected is worth 100 points. 3 correct answers will earn you 200 bonus points for a possible score of 500 points.
So, are you ready to get started with Fake or Fact?
Let's roll. This is fun.
All righty. So, we're going to be playing Fake or Fact, and I know, Scott, that you have a long history and a deep love of music, which means in terms of our guests here at Experience Points, you are uniquely qualified to share your insights on hold music. Yes, indeed, that music that plays in the background when you're on hold, waiting to speak with a human being. So we've got 3 examples of potential hold music, and I'll go through and play each one for you, and then we'll go back and listen to each one again, and you can tell us whether you think it's fake or fact. So here's the first example of hold music. All right, now here's our second potential example of hold music.
Well, I've been sitting here all day, I've been sitting in this waiting room, and I've been waiting on my friends, yes, I'm waiting on this conference call, all alone, and I'm on hold. Well, yes, I'm on hold.
And last but not least, our third example of hold music.
Hello, just a moment. You are currently caller number 5, waiting to speak with a representative. Thank you for your patience. You are currently caller number 2, waiting to speak with a representative. Thank you.
Alrighty, Scott. So those are 3 hold music examples. Now it's time for you to decide which ones are fake or fact. Let's go ahead and go to the first one, and we'll play a little replay of it. We'll do a little replay of it to remind you which one that was. All right, Scott, what do you think? Fake or fact? And why do you think that?
That is so bad, and that is so cheesy. It's got to be real. I'm going to say fact.
I love your reasoning, Scott. So you think it is so cheesy and so bad that you believe it is fact.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see if you're right or not. Yes, indeed, that is actual hold music that was part of the Cisco Call Manager's default hold music. And in fact, if you went on YouTube today and searched for Cisco Call Manager default hold music, not only would you be able to listen to that hold music to your heart's content, but you would find that there is a recording of 1 hour of that hold music, which has been viewed or listened to over 2 million times.
Who's doing that?
People got a lot of
I
time
have no
on their
idea
hands.
why. It's crazy, but that's the reality.
So not only is it bad hold music, Cisco is getting royalties from Google and YouTube. I hope they monetize that. Because
Here's hoping. Here's hoping.
Yeah. Gee
Sometimes
whiz.
you can be bad enough to have lots of fans, I guess.
Yes,
You know,
I
such
guess.
is life. All right, let's go to the second sample of hold music.
And I've been waiting on my friends, yes, I'm waiting on this conference call. All alone, and I'm on hold. Well, yes, I'm on hold.
All right, Scott, what do you think? Fake or fact, and why?
You know, I'm going to say that's fact too, because I could see organizations trying to imitate the success of Southwest Airlines hold music, which is usually humorous or usually, talks about how how you're having to wait. So I could see that somebody would legitimately do that to try to imitate Southwest Airlines humorous hold music.
I love it. All right, so you think it's fact because you like the playfulness, you like the humor. Let's reveal. Was that hold music fake or fact? Indeed, it is fact. That's actually a song recorded by a gentleman named Alex Cornell that got famous as the hold music for the company Uber Conference, an online telephone conference call system. And that's the music they play in the background while you're waiting for everyone to connect for your conference call. So, Scott, I don't know. Dan, what do you think? We're 2 for 2. We're feeling pretty good here.
So I think it's interesting that Scott has said fact on both of them. One, because it was really bad and cheesy, and one, because it was really good and clever. I can't wait to see what he says about the third.
All right, Scott, you're 2 for 2. This is the last one. Keep in mind, there are bonus experience points to be won if you get all 3 correct. Let's listen to that third example of hold music.
You are currently caller number 5, waiting to speak with a representative. Thank you for your patience.
All right, I can't anymore. I gotta ask, Scott, what do you think? Fake or fact, and why?
Joey, all our podcast viewers just left.
Everybody's out. They're like, I can't handle it. Don't play anymore.
Guys, the funny thing is that's the one that sounds the most like your typical on hold call, and that's why I'm going to say it's fake, because the music is so annoying. I'm flipping a coin on this one. I'm really torn on this one because it really sounds like a real call. But that music's so bad. I'm going to go fake on this one.
So I don't want to try to talk you out of your answer, Scott. But I do
Okay.
want to point out that you said you think this, of all the examples, this sounds most realistic for
Yes.
what people are used to for hold music. But you think it goes so far towards sounding realistic that it's actually fake.
Well, it is, of course.
Were you thrown off by
you know the answers, and I really want something good for FFA. So, I don't
Were
know.
you thrown off by the voice? Is that where you were going? That maybe the voice part sounded really real?
I thought the voice part sounded very authentic. I just thought that music, at least through my speakers here, was so annoying. So
Not just your
irritating.
speakers, Scott.
Yeah, not just your speakers, for all the folks watching at home.
All right, so I can keep my computer speakers. Hey, even if I lose the money, at least I don't have to buy new speakers. Because
That's right. It's a savings.
It's a faithful representation. But I just couldn't imagine a company that would put that annoying of sounds in their customer's ear. I'm probably wrong.
All right, so Scott,
But
just
I'm
to make
going
sure,
fake.
final answer, you're going with fake?
I'm going with fake.
All right. Well, Scott, I hate to tell you, buddy, you should have trusted your instinct. It's actually real hold music. I know, it's crazy.
It's the worst.
I know, it's absolutely horrible. And in fact, had we continued to let it play, you would actually figure out that it is a horrible remix of Britney Spears. It's a Britney Spears song that they have just annihilated, which, being a Vegas guy, I know you appreciate, the status Britney has had on the Strip with her concerts there. But oh man, it is sadly a real example of hold music. So here's the
Joy, you're saying they made Britney toxic, is what you're saying.
My brother, you got it. That's exactly what it was. You are correct that the song
Ladies
is
and gentlemen,
toxic.
he's here all episodes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I told you this man knew
Tip your
music.
waitress, try to meal.
I
Yes.
love it. I love it. Well, let me ask this, Scott. Let's talk more broadly about something as simple as hold music and what it says about your brand. I mean, you alluded to this in the conversation of kind of the music that Southwest Airlines has is their hold music and how that speaks to their overall brand experience. What do you think about things like hold music as a way to let your brand spirit out?
It's such a great point, Joy. I mean, this is as old as the initial conversations about customer experience, dating back to Jan Carlson at SAS, in that every moment is a moment of truth. Every touch point gives you a chance to make an impression on your customer. And, if the hold music is crappy, why wouldn't a customer think, what else do they mess up? If they don't think of the customer at this point in the process, where else are they not thinking of me? And I think that's one of the things we have to realize is the customers, everything matters. Certainly some things matter more than others, but there's nothing that doesn't matter. Your hold music matters. How you talk on the phone matters. How you use their name in the conversation. These are all little things, but as the great speaker Joel Weldon has so often said, nobody's been bitten by an elephant. We've all been bitten by mosquitoes. It's the little things that get us. I love that line that Joel uses, but it's so true when it comes to the customer experience, even when it comes to hold music.
Yeah, I love that, Scott. And in particular, what I think we have to remember here is the customer is probably already irritated because they're on hold and they're not talking to a human. And so you have an opportunity to either make them more irritated or make them less. And certainly when you play the song, the Alex Cornell song, I remember the first time I heard that, I really was on an Uber conference call. I literally was hoping the other party wouldn't pick up because I wanted to hear the rest of the song. Now that is changing the experience, right? And that's making it from a poor experience to something that's memorable, even if I wish I wasn't on hold. So I think that was a really good point, that it really is every moment. And, another thing I would say about this is, how many executives do you think have waited on hold at their own company and actually heard what their customers hear. Because most of the time the executive's got, a bat phone into the supervisor and doesn't know what it's like to wait on hold. But man, if they heard that third one, I'm guessing they would say, this is not how we want to be treating our customers.
We need to do an experience audit. We need to find ways as leaders to audit the experience that our customers are receiving in things like, what's the direct mail that we're receiving? What's the emails that our customers are receiving? What's it like when they call? All of that needs to be audited by the leaders of the organization. But Dan, as you so rightly point out, they're calling the bat phone, or they see, through caller ID, hey, this is the big gal, this is the big guy calling in, and they get treated differently simply because of their position. It's such an important thing for leaders in any organization, and regardless of how small or large the business is to audit the experience that their customers are receiving.
Scott, I couldn't agree more with you, and I think at the end of the day, I empathize with the leader's position, right? The leader's got a lot of things on their plate, and they want the honest truth from their people. They want the real experience, but lots of times the very nature of them being in the conversation changes the interaction. And, one need only look to the show of like Undercover Boss or something like that to see just how often the disconnect is between the senior management suite and the frontline employees and what's actually going on. Not only do I believe that you're spot on when you say we need to do audits as leaders of the experience that our customers are having in every interaction they're having, but I think where a lot of businesses miss the opportunity is to do those consistently. A new CEO or a new head of marketing will come in, they'll do an audit, and then they'll be off to the races for 2, 3, 5 years without ever going back to look and see, well, wait a second, what new things have slipped between the cracks? What new interactions have, failed, if you will, or become less than they were last time we did the audit?
Joy, I wrote about this in one of my books. My least favorite show on television is Undercover Boss. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because it dramatically illustrates the disconnection between the leadership and the front line of the business. Well, if the leadership doesn't know what's going on in the front line, it also means they don't know what's going on with the customer's experience. And all it does is emphasize that. I mean, I watch it going, man, if they don't realize what's going on with their employees, how in the world do they know what's going on with their customers?
I don't know, Scott. I would think that'd be like a lead gen show for you.
I never thought. I need. That's a great idea. So see, I am a winner today, even though I missed that last one. That's I'm a winner already with that idea, Dan.
He's going to come back next year and say, guess what my favorite TV show is?
I've made so much money from Undercover Boss. Yeah.
The other thing that I think is interesting about this discussion we're having about hold music is it would be easy for listeners or viewers to say, okay, but my hold music is fine. Folks, it's not about the hold music. It's about all those little in-between interactions. Dan and I talk all the time on our podcast and then here on the game show Experience Points about this idea that you have required elements of your business that you have to have. You have to have invoices. You have to have an email signature line. You have to have hold music. But how many brands are actually looking at the required elements of their business and deciding to make them remarkable? Are looking at those little in-between interactions and saying, well, what can we do to tweak it, to make it playful, or a little moment of surprise and delight? And I think this is really illustrated by going on any search engine and searching for Uber conference call hold music, right? And what you will find is that there are over 2.8 million hits about that song that we played as the second sample. And the reason there's so many hits is so many people have heard that song and blogged about it, written about it, made videos of it, done recordings of it, talked about it on podcasts, etc. As our Experience Points game show guest Jay Baer would say, it's a talk trigger, right? It's something that's this little thing that, to Dan's point, gets people saying, well, wait a second, I wasn't expecting that. And then they tell other people.
And one of the points from years ago that I'm referring again to Jan Carlson at the airline SAS. He said that you lower the tray table and it's got a coffee stain on it, and The flight attendant may not think that's a big deal, but a passenger thinks, gosh, I hope they maintain the engines better than they maintain the interior of the plane. It's just the way the customers think. But conversely, if I hear hold music like that and I think it's cool, I start wondering, what other cool things am I going to experience as their customer? So you're exactly right. I mean, we all have our own take on it, as we work and deal with organizations. But I think there's 3 levels to customer interaction. One is processing. That's the lowest level. And Joey, that's what you're talking about. It's blocking and tackling. It's getting everything done right. Customers don't want you to make it right. They want you to get it right. And getting it right is that basic level. Second is service. How do we make it? How do we make the dealing that we have with them efficient and friendly? But the highest level is the experience, because it adds personalization and emotion. And humor, chuckling, laughing connects. It is an emotion. And that's where loyalty is generated. Nobody's loyal to something that they have no feeling toward. So exactly what you guys are saying. I mean, little things like this are those touch points that create emotional connectivity, which leads to customer engagement and loyalty.
Absolutely, Scott. I couldn't agree more. Well, Dan, let's recap how Scott did playing Fake or Fact.
Well, Scott, as you know, correct answers in this game are worth 100 experience points, and you answered 2 questions correctly, which means you earned 200 points. Now, those points will convert into dollars, meaning that you earned a $200 donation to the National Future Farmers of America Foundation. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you very much, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to win some money for FFA. I appreciate it greatly, guys.
Well, great job, Scott. This concludes our episode of Experience Points. Check out more games with Scott and our other celebrity contestants at experiencepointsgame.com. That's experiencepointsgame.com. We'll see you soon for more examples of remarkable customer experience here at Experience Points, presented by Avtex.
Mayo Clinic produced a study that I thought was interesting, and the purpose of the study was to answer the question, what are going to be the long-term emotional impacts of COVID? In other words, just because COVID goes away, these emotional impacts are going to sustain themselves, and there's implication for how we think about and render experiences, and one of them is, quite frankly, hold music. And one of the things that they found was 72% of the respondents said they lose their patience faster. And so people are not going to have patience for just even being on hold, regardless of what the music is. The other thing that they had in that survey that they found is that people are also going to they're more likely to be disappointed. And so you combine those two things. I'm losing my patience and I'm more likely to be disappointed. If I'm on hold for 5 seconds, guess what? I've lost my patience and now I'm disappointed in you. So there's some long-term impacts of COVID that impact how we should be thinking about the experiences that we render to our consumers, to our customers.